all the sounds are, everything you hear is coming from the bass, whether that's the actual live acoustic sound of the instrument or the bass being processed by the computer. So what's happening is I'm recording a sound, and I do that by just playing and hitting this button. And that records like 4 seconds of sound. And then I can hit play on button 1. And then it'll just use that sound. And it's 4 seconds of sound. Sometimes it'll play it here, sometimes it'll play it there, maybe that much. And it just sort of runs. And then I could record another sound. And then that other sound automatically comes into the bank of available sounds. And I could start another pattern. So there's basically 2 different lines using the same material. And I can re-record sounds. And that has a big effect on what is happening. If I want to get rid of a sound, I can just tap and hold. Now we're just back to the first sound that I recorded. When it comes back. This music really started from more of a conceptual angle. So like I had this idea of, oh, you know, it's a general granular synthesis idea that you can record a little bit of sound and then generate all this music. That within a short snippet of sound, there's all these timbres and textures that you can use. And so I wanted to do that, but in a live context. So, where in a live performance, I record a little bit of sound, and then all this music is generated from that. I mean, I had this music sort of, you know, I was working on it for a while in different forms before I was able to actually kind of put it all together into a set of music. And the main obstacle for a while was how do I interact? You know, do I use a Wiimote? Do I use you know, some other kind of MIDI foot controller? But this one in particular, the LockStep, has made it really easy to do that. So you can program it however you want. You know, you could have these buttons do anything that you want in your software. And I'm only using it in a very basic way. The other thing I was careful not to do is actually not to have like a very metronomic electronic rhythmic thing, but to have it be very loose. And so within the coding, the melodies and just about everything has like just like a little bit of like wavering in it, or like jitter, so that it's never exactly an eighth note, but just like a little bit before, a little bit after. And so then everything kind of just has this floaty quality. And then even the melodic lines, they're never quite the same rhythm lines. The interaction here is it isn't just one way, because the electronics will sometimes do things that I won't expect, and then I'm reacting to that, and that might change the direction that I take the piece in. But also, the electronics are only doing things because I record them in. And if I want to influence the electronics, then I change the sound, or I turn on a different pattern. So it's definitely different from improvising with another person, where they have their either total autonomy, or maybe there's an accompaniment role or a solo role. At the same time, I choose to do electronic music in this way because it is more like playing with an ensemble, where I'm not totally in control of everything, and I can step back as a soloist and let the electronics take sort of center stage, and there's like a little bit more give and take versus just a normal sort of solo performance. So I like that. I don't always know what the computer is doing, just like in an ensemble. I don't always know what the ensemble's going to do. Someone could play these pieces, with violin or with saxophone or another instrument, and that would actually be really interesting to hear. Just someone come in here and explore it. Especially the textural pieces that don't have any melodies, that are really just record a sound and then it's processing it. And the music will sound totally different. Because it's a different, electronic configuration for each performance, but the actual sound of the music is totally going to change, and whatever that musician is interested in with the electronics is going to change. So the piece is really made in performance, and the electronics aren't the composition, or they're not the piece. All of that happens in performance. I call this music ambient music in a way, because it doesn't always develop in the same way that other music does. Like maybe it doesn't develop, or the focus is solely on one element, one texture. I mean, the original sort of goal of ambient, in terms of Brian Eno being this sound that is there and really sort of becomes part of the environment and isn't too intrusive but isn't too easy to ignore, and just sort of exists in that boundary. Whereas since I am performing the music, there is a physical element that it's not the same it's not the same kind of ambient music. Maybe it's a different kind. I mean, I think that definitely one thing I take from ambient music and minimalism is the generative side of things. So music for airports, tape loops, you know, that are uneven, that are just gradually going around and changing, and the interactions there. And that's basically, it's kind of like tape loops in the computer, but they're different every time. And this definitely has a very ambient quality to it, because there's no other element. But then as soon as I start playing with it, suddenly it becomes something else.